Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today we continue on with our PBEM Bonsai Challenge, the excellent Axis player Bonsai. We are matched up. Things are going okay, pretty well. I mean, anytime you play against a good player, you're just never quite sure. I think we're doing fine. Um, Japan invents. Well, let's just jump into the turn report. It's February 15th, 1942. Next turn will be March 1st, and we will finally start getting transports. I feel like we're in a pretty good shape for when those transports come in. We're going to get British troops up to India. We're going to get American troops over to Australia and potentially New Zealand. We'll have to see how that plays out. Um, Okay. Japan invades the UK, 112-25. I think that's one of the small islands. With the capture of Singapore, Rash Bahari Bose forms the Indian National Army, supported by Japan at Bangkok. So he gets a new counter, a new army. Third Corps, this is Singapore. Okay. Philippines. Well, hell, I'd kind of forgotten the Philippines was even still going on, but those units are still hanging on. One more turn, I think, and then they'll be out. And then we have a few that don't have a supply source. We'll go check that out. He's again hitting our convoy lanes. I will say that is one thing he does an incredible job of, much better than the AI, of course, but better than any other human player I've played, is getting into these convoys with his carriers and really tearing up our merch marine fleet. Um, I'm of two minds of it. Some turns I'll turn it off if it becomes too severe. When I say turn it off, we'll cease doing any convoys that turn. But really, no matter what, you got to still keep trying to pump stuff in there. I mean, you can build more merch marines. He's eventually going to have other things he has to do with his carriers, and so he won't be in our convoy lanes as much. So really, don't be scared, maybe a turn here or turn there. Now, you remember we backed off a little bit a couple of turns ago, but a turn here, turn there, if you turn off the convoy is okay, but you can't just abandon it because he's taking out your merch marines. This is certainly manageable when, in a turn it looks like he took out one, three, five merch marines and one escort. That is manageable. UK has low oil stockpiles. As we go around, you'll see the UK actually has no oil stockpiles. They have zero. We're going to have to stop sending any to India, which is in some respects okay because India no longer has that air unit, and because of that, they don't really use any oil. So, okay, that's the turn report. Uh, we'll go around and look at the map here very quickly. Now, you can see in India, this actually worked out just fine. We're still on the rail. We can get it around to Delhi. Now, he's arrived just outside of Delhi, but okay. I mean, that's where he's decided to head. I'll be honest with you, I would much prefer he go and try to take Delhi than try to take Bombay. And you may say, why is that? Well, because Delhi is landlocked. And ultimately, if all we hold is Delhi, we've got a few problems. One is it's the only place we can try to put down new Indian units that arrive, and you run out of space. And then it'll say, well, you've got no valid hexes to deploy. That becomes a real problem because you're cranking out these Indian units and you've got no place to put them. Also, the most important thing is we keep a port here at Bombay, which means that British troops can get in here. And next turn, and before we forget, let's go down here, right there, and let's turn this British unit active. Okay, do that. Let's see who do we have here? Do we have enough command points to get? Well, Wavel's already taken. Oh, to get Auchinleck, we need 21 points. Okay, we'll come back and check that some other time. It is going to have to move up when this on next turn we get a British transport. We'll put this unit on there and get it straight up to India to Bombay. We should still have Bombay in a couple of turns, and that is all important. That's really your barometer in India, I feel, is do you still have Bombay long enough to get British troops to start unloading there? Okay, so anyway, let's look at the logistical situation up here. It looks good. I mean, all these guys are in 9. Even these guys are in 9 because they're on the rail. Now we're going to move them around here, and I'll show you what we're going to do when we come back to this. But let's just kind of continue to move around the map. We'll take the logistics off. Okay, it looks like he's not even going to hold Colombo or Jaffna. We could maybe take advantage of that at some point. One thing that you want to do as the allies is spread yourself out because he's got two main task forces. Now, he's got a lot of ships, but he's got two main task forces that can really scare you. Those two carrier task forces that are the most powerful units in the game until really into maybe March or April of 1943. And so the more you can spread out to different ports, the less he can use them. Now, he's got them down here. Why is that? Well, he just landed in Adelaide. So he's into Adelaide, he's into Port Augusta. Port Augusta's a 3, Adelaide's a 4. If he was going to land anywhere, this is where we wanted him to land, up and around. It's going to be hard for him, assuming we can hold on. Now, Melbourne is the least important of the three big cities, I find anyway. Sydney, far and away, is the more important because you can get there straight out of the whirligig. In Melbourne down here, it's a little less defensible. It also isn't as close to Canberra, which is ultimately the victory location and the capital. So, anyway, if he wants to come over here and come down here, I mean, he's going to land somewhere, right? I mean, he landed in Rockhampton as well. I would much rather he do it over here. He also landed in Perth, by the way, although Western Australia has a very undersized importance in this game when you compare it to other War in the Pacific type games. Um, in New Zealand, he did get out and around us. Now, full credit due here. This was really, really nice move by him. What did he do? He had a transport sitting here. And instead of trying to unload it or do something with it, he waited to see what we were going to do. When we pulled out of Auckland, he came around here, he landed behind us. Now that unit has nowhere to go and is completely cut off from supply. Yeah, I mean, I don't, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. He's going to sit here. Now, he'll still have a very difficult time taking Wellington because this unit's going to be doubly dug in and it's going to be the only unit on priority. I'm going to take this one off, obviously. Um, it's going to be the only one getting reinforcements. This should be a 10 of 10 within a turn of 2 or 2. He's going to be on hold and doubly dug in. He can't get around us three ways. So if you've got a unit like that, now he may bomb the ever living crud out of us and eventually take Wellington, but it's going to take a while. Um, yeah, so this is, you say, oh my gosh, he's going to take New Zealand. Well, yeah, I mean, he may, but it's gonna be a real scrap. And while he's got, assets down here, they're not over here. So I'm okay with that. That's about it. He took some of these little small islands out here, including Pago Pago. I think he got into Espiritu Santo, maybe Luganville. He's got all of these. He's got ships out here or planes sitting at Ley. That's to interdict any kind of landing we may try to do. Although remember this. You never want uncovered air units. Now he's okay here. He knows we have no transports right now, but once the other side has transports, uh, uncovered air units get run over. Or they should. Okay, so we've looked at the reports. Let's look at the deployment. All right, the Ramillies is ready to deploy. This will open up a shipyard or some shipyard space for the Brits. Let's put that in there at the African bases. Now you'll notice though, if we click on it, the UK has zero, not none, zero oil. So we're going to have the U.S. send out some more oil to them. All of the oil producing areas that the Brits have at the start have largely been taken. Those are up in Burma. Um, okay, well, the Ramillies is here. We would love to move it out, but we can't with no oil. When we have some oil, we'll get it over to Pearl Harbor, or we may just let it sit here. It doesn't hurt to just let it sit here at the African bases. U.S., let's deploy. We got the 117th Garrison. Okay. And we'll just stick this right up here. Now we've got this unit active at Morro Bay. Well, let's put this bomber group down. So we got the 21st bomber group that is ready to be deployed. We have air kind of all around here. Why don't we put one up here? Put him in Seattle. Then we've got the Comet, but we're not going to use that yet, as we've talked about. Let's put him on naval interdiction, full support. Okay, excellent. So he'll try to bomb anything that comes this way. We had some subs that came through the whirligig. Let's put them in at San Francisco, and we've got all four subs right there. Anything else to deploy? I don't think so. So the UK will get the 18th Division next time. They finally get that first transport March 1st. Then they get another one March 21st, April 14th, May 1st. We'd love to build some more. Again, minimum you want 60 with the Brits, but I like to have maybe 80, maybe 90. You could put three full cores on there, large cores. US, okay, next time around. They get this reserve corps again on March 1st. They get a transport. We're going to put that immediately through the whirligig to Australia. We'll either go to Australia or New Zealand with it, depending on what the situation looks like at that point. There's a really interesting thing happening down at New Zealand of how this will play out because if you look at it, um, right now. He's got this unit, this unit. If he can't crack this unit, if he moves here, if he keeps moving down, we're going to move with him if we can. Now, he could potentially try to get around us, but he's only got two hexes to operate with here, right? So let's just say he moves here and we move here. Now, all of a sudden, this one unit cannot take Wellington. He needs two, right? But if he moves here, all of a sudden we would go here and we would be back in supply. So he really can't do that. He's going to have to wait. Next turn he could go here, but then he would have to wait another turn until he could crack this unit. By then we could have a United States unit right here, and then any chance he had of taking Wellington would be over. So this is a real cat and mouse game here. But if we get over, let's just say he does shatter this and he can get down here 1-2, we don't have any place to put in with the US, and we'll bring the US unit over to Sydney, Sydney Canberra area to try to protect this as well as we can. Okay, so Comet, so he's reserve transport. We get another division. We get the Hornet in the middle of March. Again, it's going to be 43 before I really bring my Navy out in any kind of force. The nice thing about saving up all of those destroyers and cruisers and doing all that is at some point here we will be able to start to dictate where he takes his main task force. And you may say, what? Well, if we start interdicting some of these places that he's interdicted on us, he'll want to move his carriers over there. We'll know that, and I can't even tell you how many games that I've won just by laying that trap. You lay the interdiction trap, people are not patient enough to hold back and say, okay, well, I took Nomaya, I'm going to have to give it back now because he's interdicted me out there. Instead, they'll move their carriers right over there and you can spring traps, even when you're not as strong as they are early on. But we'll get to all that, won't we? Let's go to the combat log. Last turn, partisan activities in China. It looks like he is basically sat down and turtled in China. He's gone to garrison with all of these units, and you may say, huh? What in the world? This is not how our last game went. He expended just an amazing amount of resources, eventually taking all of China. But man, it was just a battle royale out here. I think he has rethought that strategy. Now, you maybe have never seen anybody do this before, but what he's doing is he's holding on to as much production as he can. Then he's going to use that production, put it into India, put it into Australia. It's not a bad idea, not a bad idea, but caution, word of caution, as if you're going to play the Japanese and you use this strategy is every single turn you give the Chinese, where you're not pushing them, I think is a real benefit to them because they get dug in better. They rebuild those units that started at like a 10 of 30. They start to build and build and build, and then it just becomes impossible to take China. And if you're not trying to do it from the start. So I actually would not follow, and when I have played the Japanese a couple of times, did not follow the strategy. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, this is not how we played last time. There's probably some benefit to that because I was expecting, it to go a certain way. It's not going that way in China, but I really think over the long haul that benefits us. Supply interdiction, we're actually doing that. That's our fourth and fifth out here tactical group. As you can see, that tactical group is down to a 3 of 20. Um, because they just never repair. I don't know. I don't know. We've all tried to figure it out. I don't know. I'm going to talk to Alvaro about it at some point. Singapore, he's walked right into Singapore now. Well, that's not true. He kicked us out. Now we've got this Indian unit that's done for land combat. We finally retreated. It took him 3 or 4 hits to get in there. Invasion right off Port Augusta. Again, that's a level 3 port. This is a level 4 port. 7 total times 20. That's 140 strength points that he can supply out of these 2 ports. Invasion Perth. It is weird. I mentioned this just a minute ago, but in War in the Pacific Admirals Edition, arguably Perth is maybe the most important spot on the map, or one of them. It's not Pearl Harbor, it's not Rangoon, but it's incredibly important. Now, here, the Brits still do get in any supply that they're going to convoy to Australia, generally would go into Perth. But it's just not as important. Letting your opponent take Western Australia, eh, I mean, there's no victory points out here. I'm turning on victory points. I'm turning on victory points. Objective. Wow. Oh, I got to get off the screen. My bad. There we go. Um, Darwin, Perth, some of these things, if you've played Pacific War games that are generally very important, just they're not victory locations here. It's Canberra. That's it in Australia. So in some cases, you could maybe incorrectly overstate the strength of Australia. It's got 1 victory location. Papua New Guinea has 2, and if you count Rabaul, it has 3. So arguably much more important. You've got Nomaya and Suva out here. So there are other places on the map that are very that have a lot more importance than maybe they do in another game. But I will say this also, just because I said that about victory locations, don't underestimate its importance because if the U.S. can use Australia as a staging base, it's not long before it starts taking everything else. And so, why would a good player like Bonsai come into Australia? To try and prevent that. I mean, ultimately, that's why Sydney is the prize here. You want to be able to come through the whirligig and put American forces here. Once you do that, you can start thinking of advancing north. Combat log. Let's go on. That was Pago. That's Nomaya. This was, yeah, it was Luganville that he came into when it said invaded the U.S. Partisan activities, okay, in China, you get it. Convoy attacks. So he did take out a Merch Marine here coming into Bombay. Okay, it's worth the price. He took out 2 down here, and then a convoy attack with his subs also down here in this lane. Now you see he took out a merch or 2 merch marines and an escort. He also got banged up a little bit on a few subs. So we did draw a little blood there. Now you'll see how he uses his subs. He's doing them in a 5 wolf pack. I would recommend in this game always have your subs 5 together, assuming you have 5 subs. Put them all together, and that's what Bonsai is doing with his. Um, but we drew a little blood there. Not enough. It would have been nice to sink one, but okay. UK low oil stockpiles, no supply source out at Suva, none there in New Zealand. We had kind of forgotten about the Philippines, but I guess we still have troops up here. They're fighting. They're fighting, trying to hold on. Um, I have in other games kind of done the gambit where I bring a task force over here because I know his main task forces are down by Australia, and I try to knock this because it's 3 ships, but you can see no CVs, no BBs. All right, 2 ships here with a destroyer group. These are not strong, and I've actually run over here before, knocked both of these out, and had the Philippines back. And landed troops there. So be careful if you play the Japanese. Don't let these be too weak. He probably did leave them too weak, but I'm not in an adventurous mood in this game. I think that we're in good shape, and I think if we just play conservatively and intelligently, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Okay, so we're through that. We've deployed. We've looked at the combat log. Let's look at casualties. All right. The Brit Merch Marine fleet has just been absolutely ravaged out here. We're drawing a little more blood than I did last time we played. This is fine. This is fine. And we haven't lost too much in China. I'm still kind of curious about this. He has turtle shelled up. Certainly. Now, I don't really know that. I mean, we're not in a shape to go on the offensive. As a matter of fact, maybe he's just trying to bait us into doing that. We will not be fooled into doing that. I can tell you that right now. India's lost 39 points. They're the big loser at this point. But we're looking okay in India. I'm not upset with how India is right now at all. Victory points. I will say this: Alvaro definitely changed the victory points. He lowered the Brit victory points and he upped the U.S. victory points. I think it was almost impossible to get a major victory with the British unless you held all of India and all of Australia the entire game previously. So he's adjusted that a little bit, and I think for good reason. U.S. has bumped up. It used to be fairly easy to get a victory as the U.S., at least a minor victory. And so now he's bumped that up. Soviet Union, China, okay. Though, Soviet Union always wins. China, that you'll be able to tell whether we're winning in China or not. It's not You're not going to have to look at that screen. We do have enough to build another comment unit for the U.S. Let's go ahead and do that. Once I have 2 or 3, then we'll start trying to break their codes. Advancements, all this is going to stay the same. The Brits are down to 146 on amphibious operations. We also have, as you can see, the 41s are moving faster as they should. Assault getting this to 43 will be helpful with the U.S. trying to get to 42 on its troops. Ugh. I mean, we started at a 1941 level. Yuck. But we're down to 165, trying to go to a 43 level on carrier operations. Very important. Obviously, these stay the same. Convoys, we're going to mess around with this a little bit. The Brits are not going to be sending any oil anywhere. They don't have any oil. They are going to be sending whatever they can, though, to India. As you can see, we actually can only send 20 even though we were trying to send 24 before, we can only send 20. So let's shift that 20. Oh, we don't want that to the US. We want that to go to India. All right, Britain to India, 20. That's all they can do. And off that goes. Uh, okay, I mean, they're lacking 5 Merch Marines for that because they're bringing a lot in from the US. Uh, what we'll do, I need to change these around. Um, I've got 50 and 2 going to Australia. Australia right now is sitting at 98 and 11. I'll probably do like 49 and 1. Let's do that. Um, yeah, let's do that. 49 and 1. Okay. Create that trade out to Australia. And now the UK trade, we need to set up a different one. So that's 49 and 1. We could do 46 and 15. Let's do 46 and 14. I like to have those on even numbers so you have the right number of escorts. Let's create that trade. Yeah, they're lacking 5, but the US will give them some of that. So it's 60 altogether going out there. This went down to 9 and 9. Let's get out of Bay of Bengal. Don't need them there anymore. So the UK is back up to 4 escorts. They could go in there, 10 and 1. They're actually, why don't we just do it this way? Let's just do, whoops. Let's go to the US. Let's get the US out of the Indian Ocean. We'll do it this way, and then the UK. Let's do 10 into the Indian Ocean. All right, and we'll actually back that off. So it's the UK handling the Indian Ocean, the US handling the South Pacific for escorts. And essentially, I mean, no reason to go into New Zealand now. Wellington is the national supply source. We hold Wellington. That's the last hex we may hold there, but there's no reason to send any convoys in. Now, we could try to get some oil in there. Where are the Kiwis sitting on oil? They've got 5. Now, that air unit of theirs uses 3. Okay, we're just going to leave it. 10, 10. Okay, I think that all looks fine. Look at this one more time. US is sending in. It's UK is sending out. UK needs that oil, so we've got to try to pump it in there. Just keep doing it and trying to get it in there, because ultimately, those escorts and convoys become a lot less important later than they are right now. You need that stuff. The build queue 57 for the Brits. That's not really enough to build anything. They do have some free shipyards now. We really need another transport, but we can't do it here. We could build some landing craft, but I'm not going to do that yet because we still hold Bombay. And so I'm going to try to take British units up in and through Bombay so we're not using landing craft. We're only using the transports. For the US, we sit at a 135. We don't have shipyards. We've only got 2 in shipyards here. We don't have quite enough to build an infantry corps, lacking about 9. So really all we can do is build an infantry division. All right? And then we'll build oh, we don't even have enough shipyards to build landing ships. So that's really going to do it for the US this time. 1 infantry division. The Soviet Union's building up. China almost has enough for an infantry army. Next time they will. We'll get something more on the map for the Chinese as we try to spam units. They've got a lot of manpower, as you can see here, and they could build up to, if you look at the logistics, 30. They could build about 15. 16, 17, I guess, new armies. If he's just going to sit here, we could eventually get 17 new armies into China, which makes China just impossible to take over. Australia, we will purchase an infantry division. The more Australian divisions we can get out there, the better. Oh, Canada, um, they have logistics and shipyards, right? When I want this to get to 100, when it gets there, we'll build transports for the UK. That will save some of the production. The UK can just build divisions. Uh, Commies, nothing close. India, nothing really very close. We're doing a lot of reinforcement and upgrade in India. New Zealand, same idea. We did a lot of upkeep this time. Oh, that reminds me. Did I take that off priority? I want to make sure that this unit here, that's 7 of 10, is the only unit prioritized. I think we did. Yep. Philippines. Okay, nothing much to do there. Okay. So we've dealt with all of our kind of usual things that we do up here. Let's go to India and talk about the situation. All right, the most important thing to do is keep Bombay. That's the only way at this point, it's our only port. It's the only way you're going to get British troops up and in here, right? You want to keep, to the extent you can, things on the rail line. So if you do have to move them by rail, you can. But we're in pretty good shape here. I mean, maybe that's famous last words, but next turn, we'll start having the Brits come up here on a transport. So in 2 turns, they can go here, offload right here. Now, if he's smart, he's going to go put a unit here because then we wouldn't have any place to offload, except maybe we would because I'll be able to move this unit one way or the other, and then put that British unit down. That'll be pretty dang strong. All of these guys are on hold. There's nowhere to retreat to unless we're retreating straight back into the ocean. So they got to be on hold. This guy, let's turn him to active just in case he needs to attack or we want to do something else with him. But now he's here. This is one of our better units. He's 10 of 10. He's not fully dug in, and as you can see, we got a big bad boy here, so we gotta be careful. This unit, we're going to throw on the rail and we're going to bring him around to here. It's a 1.3 defensible hex. He's halfway in between. He could come down here and maybe help with something in Bombay if we needed him to. He's over tilted here to the side of what we have left. So I'm going to put that unit in there. It's an 8 of 10 now. He's really rebuilt quite a bit. He's also a 1942 anti-tank. If we look at this, that's 42 anti-tank. They have upgraded. This is 42 assault, 42 anti-tank, 42 assault. Now this guy needs to build up. He's only a 5 of 10, he's only a 6 of 10, and he's only a 40 anti-tank. But this is okay because it's going to take another turn for him to get over here. So we're okay there. So anyway, let's throw this guy on the rail and let's take him to this hex. Okay? This unit, let's move him to this hex. Now, why am I doing that? Well, he's not even fully dug into a 1-level entrenchment. I do not want him to be able to cross this river for no price. Now, he may be able to push us back here, but I would much rather be here. Then you may say, oh my God, you're leaving Delhi. What if he busts right through here? Well, we're going to throw this guy on the rail, this headquarters, and we're going to put him right in Delhi. So you see how I do this now. I've got the headquarters in the town, and then I've got my main fighting forces outside the town. This unit, unfortunately, we can't throw on rail. He's right next to a Japanese unit, so we can't do that, but he could actually act as somewhat of a blocking force. I don't think he can get all the way over here to this rail with any of his units. I don't see how he could. So eventually we're going to be able to get this unit maybe up and around, something like that. Now let's look at the logistics. We're showing this as a 0. That's because he was quote unquote controlling this, but he's really not. Not now. So this next turn, when the logistics phase runs, this should be well, it won't be a 9. It'll be an 8, I believe. Could be a 6 potentially. Now this is a clear hex, so we needed a good unit here, and luckily that is a good unit. We've got Gaffard up here running things for the Indians. Okay, this is exactly how I want it set up. This is how I would draw it up before the game against a really aggressive player. I think this is the best defensive setup you can have. Um, we're holding him up slightly. He's moved this through. Now he can support that out of Madras, but now also Calcutta. Calcutta's a 7. It can supply up to 140 strength points. Madras up to 80. Now you may say Calcutta's a national supply source. Well, it is for us originally, but now it's damaged. You can look down there and see the production's only a 3. That production needs to get back up to a 10 before it's a national supply source for him. Um, so he's still out of port supply here. Okay, that's good. That's good. We did the UK unit. We got that turned to active. Okay, we can't move the ship. He's into Perth. That's fine. This situation, so he's going to be in Adelaide and Port Augusta. It's interesting, in some ways it's almost a bait here, right? Because these two alone are not strong enough to do anything really offensive. He's going to have to bring more up here. When will he do that? Well, maybe it'll be next turn. Maybe some of these, we've got 8 ships with a light carrier group, and we've got 12 ships. So, I mean, we've got carriers out here, but we're not showing any transports. So he's got to bring more transports all the way down from Japan or some of these islands. It's going to take him a turn or two to do that. So I'm not actually going to move any of these units. I'm tempted to because I would like to get into this hex right here, but what I think I'm going to end up doing is doing that with an American unit, or we could have one of these go down the rail to here, and then I drop the American unit off here when we get the American unit through. But we're in okay shape here in Australia. Just like India, things may look bleak, like, oh my God, he's taken the whole middle part of India. But as long as you hold Bombay, by the time you can start getting British troops out there, you're in good shape. Same with Australia. If you can hold Australia, one of the major ports anyway, until the U.S. gets there, you're going to be okay. The problem is when he takes Melbourne, Sydney, and Canberra, and now you're sitting out here with a U.S. transport, and you're like, oh shit, now I've got to, get like 90 strength points, have that many landing ships, and even then, it's very difficult to take one of these places once he's established himself there. So we're okay here. We're fine. This unit is just going to sit. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. If he moves down here this time, we'll follow right along behind him so that we're tempting him to go here, right? Because, the only way he's going to take Wellington is to be in both of these hexes. We'll tempt him down to here, but if he lets this unit get here, it'll be back in supply. Nothing else really going on out here. I mean, there's just not a whole lot that we can or want to move. You can see all of our carriers are here, including the upgraded Hermes in the last update of this game. He made the Hermes better. 60% on the experience now on the carrier planes, so the Hermes isn't just absolute crap. It's still not great, but it's got a little more to it. Let's compare it. Air combat, tactical, strategic. So it's a 3-1-1-5 for kind of the big stats. The Yorktown is a 5-4-2-10. A 10. It's probably it's probably fair to compare him to a U.S. light carrier. We don't have any of those yet. You see all of the battleships, most of them almost repaired. We've got a few, the California and the Arizona, that aren't. But most everything U.S. has been repaired at this point. We probably could lower down the U.S. reinforcement upgrade cycle here. 170. Let's do it 188. That's almost exactly half. That's fine. We'll do it that way. U.S. still has 41 merchant marines, 11 escorts, no transports or landing ships yet, but that's going to change next turn. We put the subs in there. All right, I think that does it. I'm going to turn the turn back to him. Well, I'm going to look around the map and just make absolutely sure I've moved what I had. I could. Now, you may say, what about China? Oh, maybe I just asked myself that. We do need to move one or two things in China. For the most part, if he's going to turtle up here, we're going to do the same. I just think that works to our advantage. Now, you can see, where is he strong? Well, he's strong here in Cyan, right? But he's turned that to a garrison. He's kind of letting us know, I mean, he can't be offensive this next turn with these units. So there's really not a whole lot to do there. The one thing I did want to move is to switch places here, get the cavalry back here, get this kind of stronger infantry. It's a 20 of 30 already. Get that there. This all looks fine. Now, see, he's letting some of these rebuild. This was a 9. This was a 12 or a 10. This is now up to a 23. This is up to a 15. He's giving us time and space. Now, the only thing that's not great is our logistics situation right, through here. We're getting a little bit, but our effectiveness is down, and that's what will happen when you're in a level 1 supply situation. But really, I don't want to move any of these guys. Let him dig in. He's doubly dug in. Now, he could get attacked from 4 different sides, which isn't great, but it doesn't look like he wants to do much offensive. Um, let's see. Is there anything down here I want to move? Not really. Uh, I think this is fine. I think this is the one move I wanted to make in China. Every turn that he lets us sit here, I think works to our advantage. I'll say for the last time, but I really do believe that. Okay. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm enjoying the hell out of this game. This is a great, great game. I love this game. I just think it's so well made. It gives you so many choices. This chess match that's going to happen down here, I just love this kind of stuff. This is like reminiscent of some of the very best board games, war board games ever made, and I just really enjoy it. So anyway, this has been Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.